The Harvest.
Good afternoon, Africa. This is Imene Nouad with the latest news from across the continent and around the world. Starting with the United Nations Security Council that has issued a stark warning regarding Libya's deepening political impasse. In a briefing on the situation, the UN support mission in Libya highlights systematic governance failures, driving severe energy shortages alongside dangerous security escalations along the western coast. Isaiah Natukunda is here in the studio with us to talk more. Hello, Isaiah.
Hello, Iman.
Isaiah, how are those dual political and security crises directly impacting ordinary Libyans on the ground?
Yeah, Iman, UN envoy Hannah Tete lays out a grim picture of how Libya's political deadlock is crippling daily life. She points first to economic collapse, where massive power blackouts leave hundreds of thousands in dark during severe heat waves, a striking contradiction for Africa's largest oil producer. Let's listen to her.
On the situation briefing and about how this situation is escalating, but let's listen more to details with her.
Yeah, when she actually talked about the political dreadlocks that are crippling the lives of people in the country, she also talked about the security on ground where it's rapidly deteriorating.
Let's listen to what she said.
In July, major electricity blackouts affected large parts of the country, disrupting electricity and water supplies for hundreds of thousands of Libyans. These electricity cuts have continued into August. This follows the loss of generating capacity amid weeks of worsening controlled power cuts driven by fuel shortages, declining gas availability, and pressure on an already fragile electricity network. The contradiction is that this is occurring in a country that does not lack energy resources and has the largest petroleum deposits on the African continent. The crisis highlights a striking paradox. According to National Oil Corporation data, approximately $1 billion United States dollars is spent monthly on fuel imports. Yet electricity systems remain vulnerable to fuel shortages. Evidence of large-scale diversion of subsidized fuel in the electricity and security sectors, as I have highlighted in previous briefings, and as has also been reported by the panel of experts, underscores the need for stronger oversight, accountability, and coordination to ensure public resources are used to deliver the essential services Libyans depend on.
At the same time, the security on the ground is rapidly deteriorating, just like I said. And Hannah Tete highlights a dangerous escalation along the western coast where drone strikes recently hit a vital energy infrastructure. Let's listen again to her.
On the 3rd of August, heavy clashes erupted among these actors in residential areas across Zawiya and Soman, resulting in civilian deaths and injuries. Furthermore, the use of several drones against the oil refinery and other vital infrastructure in Zawiya is an emerging and worrying development, suggesting deliberate targeting of the oil facility, causing structural damage, risk of fire, and disruption of water supplies. On the 10th of August, the National Oil Corporation declared a state of emergency at the refinery and called for urgent investigation into these attacks.
Well, Iman, just like you had, Hannah Tete emphasizes whether it is fuel corruption in the state or this economy or drone strikes or on power infrastructure, these crises stem from a single root cause, which is state fragmentation. The UN is now pushing Libyan stakeholders to unify executive institutions and finalize election frameworks through its 4+4 committee to prevent total institutional collapse. Back to Iman.
Thank you, Isaiah, for all this summary about the situation. But to delve more into it, Libya's permanent representative at the United Nations, Tahar Sunni, calls for positive international partnerships that respects Libya's sovereignty and the will of its people and supports the political process without replacing Libyan leadership. Speaking during a UN Security Council session on the situation in Libya, Sunni stresses the need to overcome the political stalemate and end the transitional phases through free and fair elections, as he welcomes progress on electoral laws and the mechanisms for selecting the head of the High National Election Commission, calling also for accelerating the implementation of agreements on unified budgeting and spending and for support to the independence of the Central Bank of Libya, warning of the repercussion of corruption and oil and fuel smuggling. Sunni also further urged the international community to support military and security dialogue, unify the country military institutions, and end all forms of foreign presence in Libya. Let's hear.
إن كل ما يتم ذكره من انقسام
Everything that is mentioned regarding divisions and challenges across all files, especially those affecting Libyan citizens, whether economic, security, humanitarian, or otherwise, are merely symptoms of failing to yet reach a radical, a comprehensive political solution. A political solution built on pluralism and effective democracy based on a constitution and a civil state, a state of institutions and law, and a state that holds a monopoly on weapons, possessing a unified army whose doctrine is the protection of the country and the defense of the homeland. The ongoing conflict for years has been and continues to be due to numerous foreign interventions, and the crisis has been exploited to pass agendas and transfer proxy conflicts, with many examples in neighboring countries and the region. Therefore, we call upon you today once more for a positive international partnership and equitable partnership that respects the will of the Libyan people and their sovereignty.
تحترم إرادة الشعب الليبي وسيادته.
World Humanitarian Day today is being celebrated in the world as the United Nations joins the international community in marking World Humanitarian Day, honoring humanitarian workers and reaffirming solidarity with millions of people affected by crisis, particularly across Africa. We hear more from Amani bin Skhariya in this report.
Every crisis has a human face. Behind every headline are families forced to flee, children growing up in uncertainty, and communities struggling to recover. As the world marks World Humanitarian Day, the day reminds us that humanitarian crises are not distant events, but daily realities for millions of people across Africa and the world, from armed conflict and displacement to food insecurity and the growing impact of climate change. Humanitarian needs are rising, yet the commitment of humanitarian workers serving those most in need remain a constant source of solidarity. According to Savina Amassari, the resident coordinator in Algeria, the humanitarian action is not just about responding to crises, but also about preventing them and building resilience.
Today on World Humanitarian Day, our thoughts are first and foremost with the millions of people around the world who are living through conflict, displacement, hunger, and natural disasters. In Africa, we are seeing some particularly difficult humanitarian situations. Conflicts continue to force people from their homes, and droughts, floods, and other climate-related shocks are making life even harder for many communities. But today is also about the people who are there to help. Humanitarian workers are on the ground every day, often in very difficult and sometimes dangerous conditions. Their work saves lives, and it deserves our recognition and our support. At the same time, we know that humanitarian assistance is not enough. We need to do more to prevent crises, address their causes, and help communities to become more resilient.
Responding to suffering is essential, and saving lives must always remain a priority. But the real challenge goes further. How can we prevent crises from happening in the first place and build a future where communities are better prepared to face them?
Still on the same context, the United Nations says a record number of humanitarian workers are attacked in 2025, with 907 killed, injured, or kidnapped, compared with 833 in the previous year. The UN says 358 workers are killed, while the growing use of armed drones is increasing risks in the conflict zone. Gaza remains the deadliest location for humanitarian workers, with 186 killed there in 2025, followed by Sudan, as UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres describes the level of violence as appalling and calls on states to respect international humanitarian law and hold the preparators accountable. Shifting to Algeria, as Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune pays tribute to the Mujahideen and martyrs of the revolution on the occasion of National Mujahid Day, which commemorates the dual anniversary of August 20th, 1965, marked by the North Constantine Offensive, and the August I say August 20, 1956, with the holding of the Somam Congress. In a message, President Tebboune highlights the historical significance of these two major events of national liberation war, emphasizing the role of North Constantine offensive in strengthening the armed struggle and the national unity in August 1955. He also stresses on strategic importance of the Somam Congress, which helped the structure of the revolution at the military, political, logistical, and organization levels. In August 20th, 1956, President Tebboune calls on the current generations to carry forward the message of Mujahideen and the martyrs to preserve the national sovereignty, strengthen the state, and work towards fulfilling Algeria's aspirations. An international symposium on the Somam Congress is taking place currently in Bijaya, marking the 70th anniversary of the historic 1956 Congress and National Mujahid Day. Held at Abdurrahman Mira University, the event brings together Algerian and foreign researchers to discuss the history and culture of the resistance. The symposium focuses on Somam Congress, national memory, literature, and the role of resistance in shaping Algeria's identity. An exhibition of national archives documenting Algeria's resistance and the 1956 Somam Congress is also being held alongside the event, highlighting key moments from Algeria's struggle for independence. Shifting to Morocco, as it has once again emerged in a financial investigation linked to cross-border organized crime after the European Union Agency for Criminal Justice Cooperation, Eurojust, said on an international probe uncovered the laundering of at least 18 million euros in a drug trafficking proceeds by converting the money into gold before the gold bars and the plates were transported to Morocco. More with Mohammed Aziz Touhar in this report.
Another scandal is shaking the throne of the kingdom accused of feeding off money laundering. The European Union Agency for Criminal Justice Cooperation, Eurojust, has confirmed that the network relied on purchasing gold to convert illicit funds into valuable assets that could easily be concealed and transported across borders. According to Eurojust, the operation lasted 10 months. The case reveals through figures provided by Eurojust the significant scale of the operation. At least 18 million euros in drug proceeds were laundered. More than 50 kilograms of gold were seized, hidden away, and criminal assets worth over 30 million euros were identified. The gold linked to the operation was then transported to several countries, including Morocco. The gold, which originally represented money obtained from criminal activity, did not remain within the financial channels under investigation. Instead, it was converted into bars and sheets and moved across borders, eventually reaching Morocco. What happened is not simply a case of precious metal smuggling, but a money laundering operation involving criminal proceeds, with Morocco identified by European authorities as one of the destinations for the gold linked to the case. This leaves Morocco's official rhetoric on combating organized crime facing a significant fact. Once again, Morocco was identified as a destination for this gold.
On health updates, the Democratic Republic of the Congo has recorded more than 5,000 confirmed Ebola cases, marking the country's latest outbreak, its largest on record. The government data showed 5,021 cases and 2,378 deaths as of Tuesday, surpassing the previous 2018-2020 outbreak. The health officials warned that the efforts to contain the disease are being hampered by weak health infrastructure, instability, community resistance, and protest by response workers. Shifting to cultural news, as across Africa, traditional crafts continue to preserve cultural identity and pass skills from one generation to the next. In Tunisia, Sejnan pottery remains an important tradition, with women using handmade techniques and local clay to create distinctive pieces. Idmor Cachasso takes us to a closer look.
Sejnane pottery is a traditional craft made mainly by women in Sejnane region of northern Tunisia. The skill is passed from one generation to another, with artisans using local clay to make household and decorative items, often decorated with simple geometric patterns and symbols. The pottery is not only part of the community's culture, but also provides an income for many women. In 2018, Sejnane pottery was added to the UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, helping bring more attention to the tradition. Today, artisans continue to make a pottery despite competition for mass-produced products and changing lifestyles. By keeping traditional methods while creating designs for modern buyers, they are helping ensure that Sejnane pottery remains part of Tunisia's cultural life.
And there you got it all, dear listeners. This is all we harvested today. Thank you for paying attention to the fullest. It was directed by Yasmin Bekay, control board with Yusuf, streaming with Rania, and observation with Awes. Enjoy the rest of our programs with your favorite radio channel, Ifriqiya FM, the voice of Africa.